sometimes the things that we think are very small and insignificant are really valuable things. And people who are studying the mind really understand the impact of losses. And today in the show, Painful Goodbyes, we are looking at loss from a counseling psychologist perspective. And to help us in the show, I have my friend Tasu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure having you. Maybe people would love to know who you are.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So my full name is Tasunungurwa Matinhira. Or people rather call me, when I'm at work, they prefer to call me Mr. Taz.
Yeah.
This was coined when I was still doing with the high school students. There was a time I used to teach. And so my students were like, say your name, it doesn't have that, so that's when they ended up coining the term Mr. Taz. But otherwise, I grew up, my parents calling me Tasu, even my friends as well, calling me that as well. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So maybe you want to tell us about your growing up and the things that you like and what you do.
Thank you so much. Yep. So growing up, I was born in a family of 5, and I'm the first boy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I lost my older sister. So I grew up in a farming community.
Okay.
I grew up in Headlands.
Yeah.
That's where I spent most of my childhood years. But I remember when I got to grade 6, my parents taking me to a mission school.
Okay.
And I'd quite an experience there. So I had to do my grade 6 to upper 6 at Nyazura high school. Then, so literally that's more or less my my childhood years. Every holiday, by the way, my parents would make sure that would go Kumusha. They would make sure we go to the rural areas to farm. And we always go to Mashingo. That's where my grandparents were. And then, of course, when I did my tertiary education, that was now in Harare. Then, then I also did part of my postgrad education. Some of it I did it here in Matebeleland in Blawayo. I did something with Lupane State University. Okay. So I think, in short, that's more or less my childhood.
Oh, thank you very much. I don't know why you would love to talk about why counseling psychology when you grew up in a farming community.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for asking that. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough that my parents were also, in as much as I grew up in this farming community that was more conservative, my parents were a bit more exposed, so they knew some of these programs existed. Personally, when I was still in primary high school, when I would be asked, what do you want to become when you grow up, I never thought of becoming a social scientist. I never knew that existed.
Okay.
I never knew that there was psychology, or you could be a psychologist in Zimbabwe. So when I was done with my A-levels and my results came out, then that's when my parents said, you know what, there are these other options as well. I know you don't qualify. Initially, I wanted to become a lawyer, but because of my points, I couldn't qualify.
Okay.
But then my parents are like, but these good alternatives, did you know that they existed? Then psychology caught my attention because it was all about studying the mind and human behavior. So I was like, I think I might need this. With the kind of energy that I have, besides the farming energy, I see myself, I've always seen myself as somebody who's curious, who wants to understand what happens within the human system or the human anatomy and stuff like that. So this is what then motivated me to say, you know what, plus I love people in general.
Yeah.
So this is why I ended up saying, you know what, psychology.
Thank you very much for sharing this bit about your life, and we'll stay tuned as we wait for the second segment. Welcome back. This is the show, Painful Goodbyes. I'm with my friend Tasu, a counseling psychologist, and we've been talking about his journey as a psychologist. Now I want us to really delve. There are a number of losses that people go through, but maybe we just need to talk about 2 or 3 time permitting. So maybe the first one is the Mjolo pandemic. It's a common term that people talk about, and this is about dating and relationships for those who may not really understand this term that has been coined. So maybe let's just look at it briefly, the psychological effects of it when somebody has been dumped.
That's one painful thing to happen to somebody, being dumped. In short, you've been left when you still wanted this thing to continue. So the psychological effects, unfortunately, it's most likely to manifest even in the physical. So you'll find that we say until we treat mental health the way we treat a broken leg, we haven't started. The reason why we say so, you'll find that once somebody has been dumped in this Mjolo pandemic, they are likely not to function. You find that their everyday functioning is impaired. They used to be tidy, they used to be neat, they used to eat well, they used to come to work on time. All of that changes. Even the way they eat, the appetite even changes as well. So there are cognitive elements to that come along with the Mjolo pandemic, especially if you are the victim in this instance. So all of this, you're likely to experience all of this. Appetite is affected, your daily function is affected, even the way you concentrate and even function at work. People can actually tell that there's something happening. So you're likely to even end up even getting into depression. And it will be fortunate for you to not even get into what we call severe or extreme depression if Mjolo pandemic really hits you hard. Especially if you're committed. There are some of this, when it comes to the Mjolo pandemic, there are some people who are actually comfortable with the pandemic. They're dumped right now. Then the next few days, they tell you, I've moved on. That's not the pandemic we're really talking about. We're talking about when you get heartbroken because you really wanted this to work. Then you are heartbroken. That's where you're likely to
experience that kind of a thing. Earlier on, before we got into the set, you were talking about it as a pandemic, and maybe you want to really go deep into that. And
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I do not have any statistics, but I'm sure you would agree with me that on average, what has been happening in the world today is alarming. This is whereby you find, I'm sure you've heard or seen some read of some of the stories whereby somebody has an extra marital affair, but they end up even committing or dying by suicide because they've been dumped or they've been played by their side chick or by their small house. That's how deadly the pandemic is. That's why we're saying it's a pandemic, because it has caused a lot of effects in the community. So this is most likely seen by the rise of mental health issues, the rise in suicide, the rise in domestic violence cases. These are all related to the Mjolo. So this is now we're calling it a pandemic because it has caused a lot, just like the way COVID actually caused a lot in a few years back.
Now there's a social script to this. I don't know how far it affects the psychological aspect. When I'm not supposed to be dumped, that could be something that's really going on in someone's mind, or the real men should actually be proposing so many and they should be winning, but now this guy has lost it. So I think that social script, how does it then affect the psychological aspect?
So without a doubt, Bonis Dube, without a doubt, the way we are socialized plays a huge role in the psychological outcome when this pandemic hits. When this pandemic hits you, so you are the community or the society grooms somebody saying a man, a bull is seen by its scars. So in short, they're saying a man has to be seen or has to prove that he's a man, by having so many relationships and stuff like that. But in the end, they don't really talk about how it then affects you psychologically, if anything then goes wrong in that. So in short, people are just telling us the good thing or what's expected, but then they don't tell us some of the consequences if those things don't go as according to the script. So the community, the way we're socialized, plays a critical role. So this is why it's also very important for us then to then sit down and talk. Could be as boys or as men, fathers talking to their sons or uncles talking to their nephews, and say, you know what, in as much as this is what is supposed to be happening or this is what's expected, there are consequences to every action or behavior that you then engage in. So this is why we're saying for the pandemic, let's sanitize, let's talk to one another, let's help one another and say, you know what, of course the community has been telling us this, but this has been wrong. So let's mend our ways, let's keep social distance, let's mind the number of relationships that we have, and also let's also be prepared. It's not always that because you're in a relationship then automatically it's going to be successful. We also need to even psychologically prepare ourselves in the event that the unforeseen happens. Or in the event that the unwanted then happens. If somebody then decides to end it and yet you still want, are you prepared? How would you manage it? How would you then handle it? Failure to do so. This is where we end up having most of these psychological issues and mental health issues that end up even becoming very deadly in the end. So definitely the social script definitely does affect the outcome of our mental health and the psychological part of us as human beings. Yes.
You may not be having the statistics, but generally this is a generalized statement. Looking at what is happening now, divorce cases that are on the rise, how has that contributed to the mental health burden of the nation? So,
generally speaking, this is why we're also calling it a pandemic. It has, I'm almost 80% sure, if not 90% sure, that most of the divorces that are occurring nowadays are mainly related to the mjolo.
Okay.
Of course, the financial part can also come and play in, that's the other main thing that is playing a part. But the mjolo issue is the one that's the main issue. This is why most people are fighting. This is why people fight over even the phone. Why do you have a password? Why is it you need to access my phone? Why is it you want to know what I'm doing? Why is it you want to know where I am at a certain time? This is all related to the mjolo. And if you find, or if you look at it, most of the cases that then end up coming through, and most of the cases that you end up dealing with are related to these mjolo issues. This is why we end up then saying, you know what, be objective when it comes to these issues of mjolo, these relationship issues. Be objective with yourself and be honest with yourself. Is this really what I want, or is this the kind of person that I really want? But sometimes, unfortunately, most of these red flags, you would have seen them. An interesting case that I actually had whereby somebody was saying, I was dating this girl, but each time I would always notice that her phone was always on flight mode. Those kind of red flags are likely to show you that you will have a pandemic, the mjolo pandemic in the near future with your partner. And this is why you find that today people are married, a few weeks or months down the line, people are getting divorced. And it's most likely because of the mjolo pandemic.
So in your practice, you've dealt a lot with suicide issues, suicide ideation, and dealing with people that have lost their loved ones through suicide. Maybe in the last few remaining minutes, maybe talk about that.
No, it's so sad. It's so sad when we talk about suicide. Most people who die by suicide is because they have felt to deal with the difficulty or a hurdle in their mental health. They've experienced a mental illness that has been triggered or that has been caused by especially the mjolo one or any other issue that has made them to then decide, you know what, I think life, I don't deserve to live anymore. Or I think ending this or ending my life is the best way out. It's very unfortunate. So you will find that it's what has been alarming is the rate at which now men have been dying by suicide. Yeah, this is mainly because most people do not have people that they can trust, or they actually do not even know, they're ignorant, they don't even know that they can actually get help for whatever mental health issue or whatever issues that they actually have in life.
Yeah.
And we always try and say, you know what, guys, come through, feel free to open up. Have somebody that you trust that you can actually open up to. And it's really been an alarming issue. And sometimes most of these things are man-made. It's not that they are occurring naturally, that people then decide to then end their lives or dying by suicide, but it's things that we create for one another. And most people actually do enjoy it when they see their neighbor suffering psychologically, or if they try and, or if they see them that this person is probably stronger than they thought, they will try and make sure that they make you as weak as possible and vulnerable to that. Then once you die by suicide, then people will say, I wish they had said, or they had opened up, who could have helped, who could have done something.
When we contributed, actually,
when we are the ones who have actually contributed to that. Yes. So you find that with women, most of the times it's statistics has it that women actually talk about suicide maybe four more times than men actually do.
Okay.
But when it comes to now dying by suicide or actually engaging in the suicidal behaviors, men are actually 4 times more likely to actually die by suicide, or actually use more violent ways of dying. Reason being, they do not have somebody that they can then open up to. Unlike women, they are most likely to talk about it, and by just talking about it, or having that suicidal ideation, then expressing it or talking about it with others, they immediately get help, they get assistance. But with men, we tend to then, in most cases, we tend not to want to open up. So this is why you end up seeing that men are likely to die more by suicide compared to women as well.
And then there are people who are famous. There's actually the media is awash with these episodes of people who are famous that commit suicide. I mean, when you look at them, everything is okay, and you wonder why they have committed suicide. You want to talk about that?
Sure. So we usually call it smiling depression. That's the term. This one, I got it from my mentor, Professor Zerima. He says most people are experiencing what we refer to as smiling depression. Okay. I might be talking to you right now, and you're all jolly like you are, smiling and stuff like that. But a lot is happening behind. That you don't want me, or you don't want your partner or the next person to see. So at the end of the day, what then happens, and also because of the script, the social script, the society or the community has it. I know, when you have the money, when you have fame, then everything is okay. You don't need to show your weaknesses or that you're experiencing, mental health issues. So at the end of the day, you bottle it up. But then that's detrimental now. That's very, very dangerous. Before you know it, that's when we end up seeing these people dying by suicide because they wouldn't have found or wouldn't have an opportunity to talk to somebody or to get help.
Thank you very much for sharing this bit.
Thank you.
Please stay tuned as we wait for the final segment of the show. Welcome back to the third and final segment of the show, Painful Goodbyes. If you're just joining us, I'm with Tasu, a counseling psychologist, and we're talking about loss from a counseling psychologist perspective. And you spoke about smiling depression. I think there are lessons for us that we need to learn from that. Yes.
Definitely, without a doubt. So it's very important, number one, to understand that when you go through certain emotions or feelings, it's normal. It's natural. This is why these feelings or emotions are actually there, and we are able to identify them. When you're feeling sad, when you're feeling low, when you're feeling hurt, that's all natural. That's one thing people should know. So when you experience that and you feel you're overwhelmed, you can't handle it on your own anymore. It's important to get help. So what you can actually do from a simple point of view, find somebody to talk to, somebody that you trust. It could be a brother, it could be a spouse, it could be a friend. If all that fails, or you feel still you're not comfortable or safe to open up to those people, get professional help. This is why we are there as psychologists, to help you guys, to listen, to lend that listening ear, to give you that listening ear. One thing people should always remember is that when you come to a professional, or when you come to a psychologist or professional counselor, it's not that when you come through, we'll give you advice all the time, or we'll suggest things to you all the time. Sometimes you come through and you say, you know what, I just want somebody to listen to me. I have something that I just want to say. I don't want you to tell me anything. I just want somebody who can listen. We'll give you all the room and all the time. You will talk and say it out. Some people, by just saying it out, the burden is done, the burden is gone. Then that's it. Then sometimes some people want, they really need help. They need therapy to go through. They need psychotherapy to then to get better, or to then be okay, to be all right. So that's still okay again. You come and you can always come through, and we'll also offer you that. The risky thing about, getting these psychological or psychotherapies from anybody and everyone is that some of the information is toxic. They'll tell you, they have cheated on you. You have to cheat back. Cheat back. I hope I got it right. Something like that. So it's also important to know the kind of person that you're going to talk to. Not only that, when you come to also professionals, you're guaranteed privacy as well. You don't want to be, after talking to your friend, before you know it, they're out there, they're telling everybody about your story. That might even do you more harm. So this is why I also say, feel free to come through, and we'll help you. So find somebody to talk to. Engage yourself in activities or hobbies that keep you active. It could be gardening if you're somebody who doesn't like jogging or playing soccer, mabuza with others over the weekends. Or you can join, if you're women, you can join the clubs, the cooking clubs. I know SDA, there's the women's ministries, and those activities. Engage yourself in those as well. Find something creative, engage in creative activities. You've never played soccer, try it. You've never played netball, try it. You've never done fishing, try it. Try something new. Engage yourself in things that are engaging. It also helps you remove your mind from getting yourself depressed as well.
So usually when someone has committed suicide, or somebody has lost a loved one, we have cliches that we use, and we think they are helpful. You want to talk about that?
Indeed. You will have to pardon me on that one, because when you spoke about what came into my mind, I only know how to express them in Shona.
That's okay.
So there are certain statements like, kana nino ndakatombofirwa. My daughter zviitirwe ani. Ini ndotorangarira pandakatombofirwa. Remember, this time is not your time. It's their time to grieve. There's no need for you to bring your own story. Ndakatombofirwa. No. It's okay. Magambofirwa papo, you grieved then. If you didn't, then you might have to get help. It's their time. So there are certain statements we need to then avoid. My daughter is zviitirwa ni ndakatombofirwa, or the best thing you can do for people who have lost somebody to suicide. The best thing when you have nothing to say, just be there, just be present, say nothing. Yeah. So, or if you want to say something, my condolences. I'm really sorry for your loss. Those are some of the questions you can then ask. Yes. Or what really happened? What happened? Allow the person to speak. But if they're not willing to explain what happened, then that's okay. Just be present. You're present. They will feel it. You might not. You might think it might mean nothing, but it means a lot to them. This is why you see when people go to a funeral, some people just go there, you don't even know them. It's just a neighbor, you've never spoken to one another. But when they leave, you feel like people actually do care for me. But it's not because they said something. It's only because you saw that their actions meant a lot rather than the words that somebody can actually say from a distance.
Maybe as your parting shot, you want to talk about that as a ministry of presence, the psychological benefits of the ministry of presence.
So like I was saying, actions, like people say, actions actually speak louder than words. By virtue that people have come through to grieve or to cry with you, it says a lot about the people. It shows that people actually do care for you. So this is what I was saying to say, sometimes certain words that we use may cause more harm than good. So by just being present, people just seeing that there are numbers, or people recognizing, when this has been here, has been here, it will say a lot. It will go a long way to the person. So psychologically, people will be convinced people actually do care for me. But at the end of the day, what we want is people who care for one another. When people show, and this you don't only show by saying, it's mainly shown by being present. So by being present, this is where somebody can then have somebody to talk to. I didn't know. Sometimes you're just I am sorry. If you can give them a shoulder to cry on. And then be careful. Like I said, if you're not sure about what to say, don't say anything. They might say, my dad is No. Those are some of the statements we're saying. Sometimes when you're not sure, you'd rather say, I am sorry. No matter I'm sure sorry. Sorry. That would rather go a long way.
Thank you very much. When you don't know what to say, just zip your mouth. Thank you very much. For me, Skumbuzo Dube and Tasu Matinhira and the crew behind the scenes, it's a wrap.